evolution, the immediate ancestors of bees were stinging wasps in the family Craburnidae, which were predators of other insects. The switch from insect prey to pollen may have resulted from the consumption of prey insects, which were flower visitors and were partially covered with pollen when they were fed to the wasp larvae. This same evolutionary scenario may have occurred within the vespoid wasps, where the pollen wasps evolved from predatory ancestors. Based on phylogenetic analysis, bees are thought to have originated during the early Cretaceous about 124 million years ago, the supercontinent of West Gondwana, just prior to its breakup into South America and Africa. The supercontinent is thought to have been a largely xeric environment at this time. Modern bee diversity hotspots are also in xeric and seasonal temperate environments, suggesting strong niche conservatism among bees ever since their origins. 7. Genomic analysis indicates that despite only appearing much later in the fossil record, all modern bee families had already diverged from one another by the end of the Cretaceous. The Melidae, Apidae, and Megachelidae had already evolved on the supercontinent prior to its fragmentation. Further divergences were facilitated by West Gondwana's breakup around 100 million years ago, leading to a deep Africa-South America split within both the Apidae and Megachelidae. The isolation of the Melidae in Africa and the origins of the Coletidae and Renidae and Halictidae in South America. The rapid radiation of the South American bee families is thought to have followed the concurrent radiation of flowering plants in the same region. Later in the Cretaceous 80 million years ago, coletid bees colonized Australia from South America with an offshoot lineage evolving into the Stenotrididae, and by the end of the Cretaceous, South American bees had also colonized North America. 7. The North American fossil taxon Cretatrigona belongs to a group that is no longer found in North America, suggesting that many bee lineages went extinct during the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. 7. Following the KPG extinction, surviving bee lineages continued to spread into the northern hemisphere, colonizing Europe from Africa by the Paleocene and then spreading east to Asia. This was facilitated by the warming climate around the same time, allowing bees to move to higher latitudes following the spread of tropical subtropical habitats. By the Eocene, approximately 45 millia, there was already considerable diversity among eusocial bee lineages. 8a. A second extinction event among bees is thought to have occurred due to rapid climatic cooling around the Eocene-Oligocene boundary, leading to the extinction of some bee lineages, such as the tribe Melicartini. Over the Paleogene and Neogene, different bee lineages continued to spread all over the world, and the shifting habitats and connectedness of continents led to the isolation and evolution of many new bee tribes. 7. Fossils. The oldest non-compression bee fossil is Cretatrigona prisca, a corbiculate bee of late Cretaceous age approximately 17 millia found in New Jersey amber. 11. A fossil from the early Cretaceous approximately 100 millia. Melitophex burmensis was initially considered an extinct lineage of pollen-collecting Apoidea sister to the modern bees. 12. But subsequent research has rejected the claim that Melitophex is a bee, or even a member of the superfamily Apoidea to which bees belong, instead treating the lineage as Incertae sedis within the Aculeata. 13. The Allodapini within the Apidae appeared around 53 millia. 14. The Coletidae appear as fossils only from the late Oligocene, approximately 25 millia to early Miocene. 15. The Melididae are known from Pleiomicropus eocenicus in the early Eocene. 16. The Megachelidae are known from trace fossils, characteristic leaf cuttings, from the Middle Eocene. 17. The Andrenidae are known from the Eocene-Oligocene boundary, around 34 millia, of the fluorescent shale. 18. The Halictidae first appear in the early Eocene. 19. With species 2021 found in amber. The Stenotrididae are known from fossil brood cells of Pleistocene age. 22. Main articles: brood parasite and nest usurpation. Brood parasites occur in several bee families, including the apid subfamily Nomadinae. 83. Females of these species lack pollen-collecting structures, the scopa, and do not construct their own nests. They typically enter the nests of pollen-collecting species, and lay their eggs in cells provisioned by the host bee. When the cuckoo bee larva hatches, it consumes the host larva's pollen ball, and often the host egg also. 80 For in particular, the Arctic bee species, Bombus hyperboreas, is an aggressive species that attacks and enslaves other bees of the same subgenus. However, unlike many other bee brood parasites, they have pollen baskets and often collect pollen. 85. In southern Africa, hives of African honeybees, Mellifera scutellata, are being destroyed by parasitic workers of the Cape honeybee, A.M. capensis. These lay diploid eggs thelitoki, escaping normal worker policing, leading to the colony's destruction. The parasites can then move to other hives. 86. The cuckoo bees in the Bombus subgenus Cythyrus are closely related to, and resemble, their hosts in looks and size. This common pattern gave rise to the ecological principle Emery's rule. Others parasitize bees in different families, like Townsendila, a nomadine apid, to species of which are kleptoparasites of the Dasypidae genus Hesperapis. 87 While the other species in the same genus attacks halictid bees. 88. Nocturnal bees for bee families Andrenidae, Coletidae, Halictidae, and Apidae contain some species. Most are tropical or subtropical, but some live in arid regions at higher latitudes. These bees have greatly enlarged ocelli, which are extremely sensitive to light and dark, though incapable of forming images. Some have refracting superposition compound eyes. These combine the output of many elements of their compound eyes to provide enough light for each retinal photoreceptor. Their ability to fly by night enables them to avoid many predators and to exploit flowers that produce nectar only or also at night. 89. Predators, parasites, and pathogens. Further information. Diseases of the honey bee. The bee-eater, Merops apiaster, specializes in feeding on bees. Here a male catches a nuptial gift for his mate. Vertebrate predators of bees include bee-eaters, shrikes, and flycatchers, which make short sallies to catch insects in flight. 90 Swifts and swallows 90 fly almost continually, catching insects as they go. The honey buzzard attacks bees' nests and eats the larvae. 91 The greater honey guide interacts with humans by guiding them to the nests of wild bees. The humans break open the nests and take the honey, and the bird feeds on the larvae and the wax. 92. Among mammals, predators such as the badger dig up bumblebee nests and eat both the larvae and any stored food. 93. The bee will Phyllanthus triangulum paralyzing a bee with its sting. Specialist ambush predators of visitors to flowers include crab spiders, which wait on flowering plants for pollinating insects. Predatory bugs and praying mantises, 90 some of which the flower mantises of the tropics wait motionless, aggressive mimics camouflaged as flowers. 94. Bee wolves are large wasps that habitually attack bees. 90 The ethologist Nico Tinbergen estimated that a single colony of the bee wolf Phyllanthus triangulum might kill several thousand honeybees in a day. All the prey he observed were honeybees. 95 Other predatory insects that sometimes catch bees include robber flies and dragonflies. 90 Honeybees are affected by parasites including tracheal and varroa mites. 96. However, some bees are believed to have a mutualistic relationship with mites. 26. Recent studies have shown that Mycelium provides honeyed bees and stingless bees with vital nutrients. Specific fungi, such as Zygosaccharomyces sp, Candida sp, and Moniscus rubare, produce chemicals that fight against bacteria, fungal infections from different species, and viruses. Recently, these types of bees have been observed eating mycelium, suggesting that honeybees have been foraging mushrooms to collect antimicrobial medicine to boost their collective immunity. 98. Without these vital nutrients, honeybee morbidity rates rise, and the possibility of fungal infections can spike, leading to unhealthy beehives and honey shortage. Fungal infections can also lead to colony collapse disorder, so the ingestion of mycelium lowers the morbidity rate of honeybees by preventing those fungal infections from happening. Colony collapse disorder (CCD) is when worker bees abandon the queen bee and leave behind the brood and a few nurse bees. This, however, is not enough to sustain a hive, as workers are required to construct and maintain the hive structure, well as produce honey. Colony collapse disorder can also happen when varroa mites infiltrate a hive. These mites will attack and eat bees inside a hive, making it impossible for them to continue to reproduce and make honey. The presence of varroa mites results in a decrease in bee population, deformed bees, an inability to reproduce on the bee's part, and overall weakening of the colony. Varroa mites are only capable of reproducing inside of a honeybee colony, posing an even greater threat if they are able to infiltrate, because it will destroy their home. Of mites by Mycelium is a better alternative to pesticides that have shown to be toxic towards the bee colony. Mycelium also plays a role in boosting anti-inflammatory and antibacterial resistance in bees due to the ecdysteroids and Zygosaccharomyces found in Mycelium, which are then fed to larvae, boosting the next generation's immunity and improving overall hive health. Zygosaccharomyces broods, the symbiotic relationship between bees and Mycelium, found primarily in Brazilian stingless bees and Malaysian stingless bees, or more commonly honeybees. Bee broods are the larvae of honeybees. They can typically be found inside of a beehive, and in man-made hives especially. The honeybees can be found developing at different stages eggs, larvae, and pupae inside a hexagonal shape. Once the honeybee eggs hatch, a white microbial film starts to grow on the boundary between the brood cell and the larval food supply, and is then ingested by the larvae to complete their development. 100. Gut microbiota play an immense role in the health of the entire bee colony. 3 studies were recently conducted and each introduced a new organism to the bee's gut microbiota. The bees were fed aged pollen, the assembly of the gut microbiota was disturbed, and antibiotic tetracycline entered their diet. All 3 studies showed that the honeybee's ability to survive decreased drastically, and they became more likely to contract parasites and fungal infections. 101. The introduction of certain mycelium to the honeybee's gut microbiota has the opposite effect to what took place in these 3 studies, highlighting the importance of what bees ingest and the impacts it has on their survivability during both the development and adult stages. Larvae eat the fungus, and the ecdysteroids and Zygosaccharomyces produced by the mycelium benefit the larvae. Zygosaccharomyces sp is essential for S. depilis larvae. 100. These sterols thus have a high impact on the survival rate of honeybees. Their ingestion determines whether the honeybees will be able to protect themselves against fungal infections, viruses, and whether or not they will have sufficient strength to increase honey production and the ability to pollinate a larger area and more frequently. Knowledge of how mycelium boosts honeybees' immunity could be pivotal to the increase of a honeybee's lifespan and boost reproduction by helping implement new policies to prevent the use of harmful pesticides. 100. Impact of pesticides. Pesticides have been diminishing the bee population recently due to a lack of regulations regarding what can and cannot be sprayed on produce to protect it from being damaged during growth. When honeybees collect pollen and nectar for nutrition and to make honey, they are also ingesting harmful chemicals. Such chemicals take a toll on the honeybee's already sensitive gut microbiome and lead to a higher morbidity rate in honeybees. These microbes can suffer with toxic pesticides applied in agriculture, causing dangerous changes in the colony fitness and perturbing bees' health. Aerodynamics M. et al. 2020-102. With the research provided on the positive impact of mycelium on bees, the relationship between mycelium and honeybees is symbiotic in that the survival of bees and the mycelium's ability to help boost bee pollination boosts the ability of the fungi to grow because bee pollination improves air and soil quality, thus boosting plant life, allowing for a higher survivability rate for both bees and mycelium if they are able to perform their environmental roles properly without the interruption of harmful government-approved pesticides. The recent studies done on the symbiotic relationship between mycelium and honeybees will prove to be vital in the argument towards lessening the types of chemicals legally allowed to be sprayed on produce. The use of coevolution, long-tongued bees and long-tubed flowers co-evolved, like this Amygillus species Apidae on Acanthus alyssifolius. Further information before the first appearance of bees. The novelty is that bees are specialized as pollination agents, with behavioral and physical modifications that specifically enhance pollination and are the most efficient pollinating insects. In a process of coevolution, flowers developed floral rewards 23 such as nectar and longer tubes, and bees developed longer tongues to extract the nectar. 24 bees also developed structures known as scopal hairs and pollen baskets to collect and carry pollen. The location and type differ among and between groups of bees. Most species have scopal hairs on their hind legs or on the underside of their abdomens. Some species in the family Apidae have pollen baskets on their hind legs, while very few lack these and instead collect pollen in their crops. 3. The appearance of these structures drove the adaptive radiation of the angiosperms, and, in turn, bees themselves. 9. Bees co-evolved not only with flowers, but it is believed that some species co-evolved with mites. Some provide tufts of hairs called a carinaria that appear to provide lodgings for mites. In return, it is believed that mites eat fungi that attack pollen, so the relationship in this case may be mutualistic. 25-26. Phylogeny, external. Molecular phylogeny was used by Debovic et al. 2012 to demonstrate that the bees and the phyla arose from deep within the Crabbernidae syncellato, which was thus rendered paraphyletic. In their study, the placement of the monogeneric heterogeneidae was uncertain. The small family Melanidae was not included in this analysis. 27. Further studies by San et al. 2018 elevated the subfamilies plus one tribe and one subtribe of Crabbernidae syncellato to family status. They also recovered the placement of Heterogena within Nicinini and sunk Heterogeneidae. The newly erected family, Amiplanidae, formerly a subtribe of Pemphidonae, was recovered as the most sister family to bees. 28. Characteristics: the lapping mouthparts of a honey bee, showing labium and maxillae. See also characteristics of common wasps and bees. Bees differ from closely related groups such as wasps by having branched or plume-like set of hairs, combs on the forelimbs for cleaning their antennae, small anatomical differences in limb structure, and the venation of the hindwings. And in females, by having the 7th dorsal abdominal plate divided into 2 half plates. 30. Bees have the following characteristics. 31. A pair of large compound eyes which cover much. Between and above these are 3 small simple isocelli which provide information on light intensity. 31. The antennae usually have 13 segments in males and 12 in females, and are geniculate, having an elbow joint part way along. The front legs of corbiculate bees bear combs for cleaning the antennae, and in many species the hind legs bear pollen baskets, flattened sections with incurving hairs to secure the collected pollen. The wings are synchronized in flight, and the somewhat smaller hind wings connect to the forewings by a row of hooks along their margin, which connect to a groove in the forewing. The abdomen has 9 segments, the hindmost 3 being modified into the sting. 31. Head-on view of a male carpenter bee, showing antennae, 3 ocelli, compound eyes, and mouthparts. The largest species of bee is thought to be Wallace's giant bee Megachild Pluto, whose females can attain a length of 39 mm, 1.54 in. 32. The smallest species may be dwarf stingless bees in the tribe Meliponini, whose workers are less than 2 mm, 0.08 in length. 33. According to inclusive fitness theory, organisms can gain fitness not just through increasing their own reproductive output, but also that of close relatives. In evolutionary terms, individuals should help relatives when costs less than relatedness * benefit. The requirements for sociality are more easily fulfilled by haplodiploid species, such as bees, because of their unusual relatedness structure. 34. In haplodiploid species, females develop from fertilized eggs and males from unfertilized eggs. Because a male is haploid has only 1 copy of each gene, his daughters, which are diploid, with 2 copies of each gene share 100% of his genes and 50% of their mother's. Therefore, they share 75% of their genes with each other. This unusual situation has been proposed as an explanation of the multiple at least 9 evolutions of eusociality within Hymenoptera 3637. Haplodiploidy is neither necessary nor sufficient for eusociality. Some eusocial species, such as termites, are not haplodiploid. Conversely, all bees are haplodiploid, but not all are eusocial, and among eusocial species, many queens mate with multiple males, creating half-sisters that share only 25% of each other's genes, 38. But monogamy queens mating singly is the ancestral state for all eusocial species so far investigated, so it is likely that haplodiploidy contributed to the evolution of eusociality in bees, 36. Bees may be solitary or may live in various types of communities. Eusociality appears to have originated from at least 3 independent origins in halictid bees, 39. The most advanced of these are species with eusocial colonies. These are characterized by cooperative brood care and a division of labor into reproductive and non-reproductive adults, plus overlapping generations, 40. This division of labor creates specialized groups within eusocial societies, which are called castes. In some species, groups of cohabiting females may be sisters, and if there is a division of labor within the group, they are considered semisocial. The group is called eusocial if, in addition, the group consists of a mother, the queen, and her daughter's workers. When the castes are purely behavioral alternatives, with no morphological differentiation other than size, the system is considered primitively eusocial, as in many paper wasps. When the castes are morphologically discrete, the system is considered highly eusocial, 24. True honeybees genus Apis, of which 8 species are currently recognized, are highly eusocial and are among the best known insects. Their colonies are established by swarms, consisting of a queen and several thousand workers. There are 29 subspecies of one of these species, Apis mellifera, native to Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Africanized bees are a hybrid strain of E. mellifera that escaped from experiments involving crossing European and African subspecies. They are extremely defensive. 41. Stingless bees are also highly eusocial. They practice mass provisioning, with complex nest architecture and perennial colonies also established via swarming. 542. A bumblebee carrying pollen in its pollen baskets, corbiculae. Many bumblebees are eusocial, similar to the eusocial Vespidae, such as hornets, in that the queen initiates a nest on her own rather than by swarming. Bumblebee colonies typically have from 50 to 200 bees at peak population, which occurs in mid to late summer. Nest architecture is simple, limited by the size of the pre-existing nest cavity, and colonies rarely last more than a year. 43. In 2011, the International Union for Conservation of Nature set up the Bumblebee Specialist Group to review the threat status of all bumblebee species worldwide using the IUCN and Red List criteria. 44. There are many more species of primitively eusocial than highly eusocial bees, but they have been studied less often. Most are in the family Halictidae or sweat bees. Colonies are typically small, with a dozen or fewer workers on average. Queens and workers differ only in size, if at all. Most species have a single-season colony cycle, even in the tropics, and only mated females hibernate. A few species have long active seasons and attain colony sizes in the hundreds, such as Halictus hesperus, 45. Some species are eusocial in parts of their range and solitary in others, 46, or have a mix of eusocial and solitary nests in the same population, 47. The orchid bees Apidae include some primitively eusocial species with similar biology. Some allodipine bees Apidae form primitively eusocial colonies. With progressive provisioning, a larva's food is supplied gradually as it develops, as is the case in honeybees and some bumblebees. 48. Most other bees, including familiar insects such as carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, and mason bees, are solitary in the sense that every female is fertile and typically inhabits a nest she constructs herself. There is no division of labor, so these nests lack queens and worker bees for these species. Solitary bees typically produce neither honey nor beeswax. Bees collect pollen to feed their young and have the necessary adaptations to do this. However, certain wasp species, such as pollen wasps, have similar behaviors, and a few species of bees scavenge from carcasses to feed their offspring. 30 solitary bees are important pollinators. They gather pollen to provision their nests with food for their brood. Often it is mixed with nectar to form a paste-like consistency. Some solitary bees have advanced types of pollen-carrying structures on their bodies. Very few species of solitary bee are being cultured for commercial pollination. Most of these species belong to a distinct set of genera, which are commonly known by their nesting behavior or preferences, namely carpenter bees, sweat bees, mason bees, plasterer bees, squash bees, dwarf carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, alkali bees, and digger bees. 49. A solitary bee, Anthidium florentinum family, Megachelidae, visiting Lantana. Most solitary bees are fossorial, digging nests in the ground in a variety of soil textures and conditions, while others create nests in hollow reeds or twigs. The female typically creates a compartment, a cell, with an egg and some provisions for the resulting larva, then seals it off. A nest may consist of numerous cells. When the nest is in wood, usually the last those closer to the entrance contain eggs that will become males. The adult does not provide care for the brood once the egg is laid, and usually dies after making one or more nests. The males typically emerge first and are ready for mating when the females emerge. Solitary bees are very unlikely to sting only in self-defense, if ever, and some sp. in the family and Renidae are stingless. 50-51. The mason bee Osmia cornifrons nests in a hole in dead wood. Bee hotels are often sold for this purpose. While solitary, females each make individual nests. 52. Some species, such as the European mason bee Hoplites anthocopoides, 53, and the Dawson's burrowing bee, Amagilla dawsoni, 54, are gregarious, preferring to make nests near others of the same species and giving the appearance of being social. Large groups of solitary bee nests are called aggregations, to distinguish them from colonies. In some species, multiple females share a common nest, but each makes and provisions her own cells independently. This type of group is called communal and is not uncommon. The primary advantage appears to be that a nest entrance is easier to defend from predators and parasites when multiple females use that same entrance regularly. 53. The life cycle of a bee, be it a solitary or social species, involves the laying of an egg, the development through several molts of a legless larva, a pupation stage during which the insect undergoes complete metamorphosis, followed by the emergence of a winged adult. The number of eggs laid by a female during her lifetime can vary from 8 or less in some solitary bees to more than 1 million in highly social species. 55. Most solitary bees and bumblebees in temperate climates overwinter as adults or pupae and emerge in spring when increasing numbers of flowering plants come into bloom. The males usually emerge first and search for females with which to mate. Tropical bees may have several generations in a year and no diapause stage. 56, 57, 58, 59. The egg is generally oblong, slightly curved and tapering at one end. Solitary bees lay each egg in a separate cell with a supply of mixed pollen and nectar next to it. This may be rolled into a pellet or placed in a pile and is known as mass provisioning. Social bee species provision progressively, that is, they feed the larva regularly while it grows. They have 15 segments varies from and spiracles in each segment for breathing. They have no legs but move within the cell, helped by tubercles on their sides. They have short horns on the head, jaws for chewing food, and an appendage on either side of the mouth tipped with a bristle. There is a gland under the mouth that secretes a viscous liquid, which solidifies into the silk they use to produce a cocoon. The cocoon is semi-transparent and the pupa can be seen through it. Over the course of a few days, the larva undergoes metamorphosis into a winged adult. When ready to emerge, the adult splits its skin dorsally and climbs out of the exuviae and breaks out of the cell. 60. Flight. Honeybee in flight carrying pollen in pollen basket. Further information, Insect Flight, Antoine Magnan's 1930 for book Le Volume des Insectes, says that he and André Saint-Lagueux had applied the equations of air resistance to insects and found that their flight could not be explained by fixed-wing calculations. But that one shouldn't be surprised that the results of the calculations don't square with reality. This has led to a common misconception that bees violate aerodynamic theory. In fact, it merely confirms that bees do not engage in fixed-wing flight, and that their flight is explained by other mechanics, such as those used by helicopters. 62. In 1996, it was shown that vortices created by many insects' wings help to provide lift. 63. High-speed cinematography. 64. And robotic mock-up of a bee wing. 65 showed that lift was generated by the unconventional combination of short, choppy wing strokes, a rapid rotation of the wing as it flops over and reverses direction, and a very fast wing beat. Frequency normally increases as size decreases, but as the bee's wing beat covers such a small arc, it flaps approximately 230 times per second, faster than a fruit fly to 100 times per second, which is 80 times smaller. 66. Navigation, communication, and finding food. Carl von Frisch 1953 discovered that honeybee workers can navigate, indicating the range and direction to food to other workers with a waggle dance. Further information, animal navigation and waggle dance. The ethologist Carl von Frisch studied navigation in the honeybee. He showed that honeybees communicate by the waggle dance, in which a worker indicates the location of a food source to other workers in the hive. He demonstrated that bees can recognize a desired compass direction in 3 different ways: by the sun, by the polarization pattern of the blue sky, and by the Earth's magnetic field. He showed that the sun is the preferred or main compass. The other mechanisms are used under cloudy skies or inside a dark beehive. 67. Bees navigate using spatial memory with a rich, map-like organization. 68. Digestion. The gut of bees is relatively simple, but multiple metabolic strategies exist in the gut microbiota. 69. Pollinating. Bees consume nectar and pollen, which require different digestion strategies by somewhat specialized bacteria. While nectar is a liquid of mostly monosaccharide sugars and so easily absorbed, pollen contains complex polysaccharides, branching pectin and hemicellulose. 70. Approximately 5 groups of bacteria are involved in digestion. 3 groups specialize in simple sugars, Snodgrassella, and 2 groups of lactobacillus, and 2 other groups in complex sugars, Guliamella and Bifidobacterium. Digestion of pectin and hemicellulose is dominated by bacterial clades Guliamella and Bifidobacterium respectively. Bacteria that cannot digest polysaccharides obtain enzymes from their neighbors, and bacteria that lack certain amino acids do the same, creating multiple ecological niches. 71. Although most bee species are nectarivorous and pollinivorous, some are not. Particularly unusual are vulture bees in the genus Trigona, which consume carrion and wasp brood, turning meat into a honey-like substance. 72. Drinking gatiation drops from leaves is also a source of energy and nutrients. 73. Ecology. Floral relationships. Most bees are polylectic generalists, meaning they collect pollen from a range of flowering plants, but some are oligologists specialists, in that they only gather pollen from one or a few species or genera of closely related plants. 70. For in Melididae and Apidae, we also find a few genera that are highly specialized for collecting plant oils both in addition to and instead of nectar, which is mixed with pollen as larval food. 75. Male orchid bees in some species gather aromatic compounds from orchids, which is one of the few cases where male bees are effective pollinators. Bees are able to sense the presence of desirable flowers through ultraviolet patterning on flowers, floral odors. 76. And even electromagnetic fields. 77. Once landed, a bee then uses nectar quality. 76. And pollen taste. 78. To determine whether to continue visiting similar flowers. In rare cases, a plant species may only be effectively pollinated by a single bee species, and some plants are endangered at least in part because their pollinator is also threatened. But there is a pronounced tendency for oligolectic bees to be associated with common, widespread plants visited by multiple pollinator species. For example, the creosote bush in the arid parts of the United States Southwest is associated with some 40 oligologies, 79. Bees are winged insects closely related to wasps and ants, known for their roles in pollination and, in the case of the best-known bee species, the western honeybee, for producing honey. Bees are a monophyletic lineage within the superfamily Apoidea. They are currently considered a clade, called Anthophila. 1. There are over 20,000 known species of bees in 7 recognized biological families, 2, 3, 4. Some species, including honeybees, bumblebees, and stingless bees, live socially in colonies, while most species, 90%, including mason bees, carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, and sweat bees, are solitary. Bees are found on every continent except Antarctica, in every habitat on the planet that contains insect-pollinated flowering plants. The most common bees in the northern hemisphere are the Halictidae, or sweat bees, but they are small and often mistaken for wasps or flies. Bees range in size from tiny stingless bee species, whose workers are less than 2 mm (0.08 in long), 5 to the leafcutter bee Megachild Pluto, the largest species of bee, whose females can attain a length of 39 mm (1.5 in). Bees feed on nectar and pollen, the former primarily as an energy source and the latter primarily for protein and other nutrients. Most pollen is used as food for their larvae. Vertebrate predators of bees include primates and birds, such as bee ears. Insect predators include bee wolves and dragonflies. Bee pollination is important both ecologically and commercially, and the decline in wild bees has increased the value of pollination by commercially managed hives of honeybees. The analysis of 353 wild bee and hoverfly species across Britain from 1980 to 2013 found the insects have been lost from a quarter of the places they inhabited in 1986. Human beekeeping or apiculture meliponiculture for stingless bees has been practiced for millennia, since at least the times of ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. Bees have appeared in mythology and folklore through all phases of art and literature from ancient times to the present day, although primarily focused in the northern hemisphere, where beekeeping is far more common. In Mesoamerica,